So joining me on the call today, I have Ashley Alsadi and Peter Burgess. Welcome to the call, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, so today's a really super interesting topic. You know, we've been talking to a lot of people in business, and one of the biggest problems people complain about is not enough leads. And so this whole idea of creating a daily lead machine, which means that we're getting leads every single day that we're in business, and plugging that into your business so that you don't have to worry about getting leads anymore. You just have to worry about what are you going to do with them all. Let's talk about this idea. So creating a daily lead machine. What's your interpretation? What's your idea around this, Ashley?
Well, when you say like the biggest challenge for people is they don't have enough leads, this is why I'm in business, David, isn't it? I mean, that's what I do, lead generation. Yeah. But I would say when it comes to, creating that daily lead machine for your business, one thing that comes to mind for me is that people forget they could be that daily lead machine for their business. So as we know, I'm very passionate about cold calling and doing all that sales grunt work to generate new business. And I think now more than ever, it's so relevant. It's the most direct way of generating new business and getting feedback from your target market, I might add. But yeah, I think if people are able to master that art and gain confidence to pick up the phone, they could start to, as I said, become that lead machine in their business that they may need.
And when you talk about using the phone, I think, cold calling has always been a bit on the nose for a lot of people, but the telephone is still, almost without exception, the most effective way of communicating human to human. And I think when we talk about daily lead machine, and in this context of saying, well, we should be generating leads all the time in our business, the business owner or their team should be activating some sort of outbound sales campaign, is really what you're alluding to, right?
100%. And I think, that's being proven to me time and time again, because you're right, David, years ago, because I've done this now, for 12 years, we've been cold calling for companies. Yeah. A while back, that conversation started around, well, isn't the online world taking over? Is the phone still as powerful as ever? I would say, you're spot on in highlighting that human to human contact is being craved. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of our clients come forward saying, look, we're doing a lot of online marketing, we're generating leads through other mediums, but we still need someone to get on the phone and to be able to qualify them, to have that conversation. So yes, you and your team really have to, again, become that lead machine by mastering the art of the phone.
Fantastic. So then we've got, we've got Pete here very specifically, because Pete is the guru when it comes to CRMs and nurture sequences. And I think one of the issues with going out and generating leads is often people aren't ready to buy today, right? They're in your target market, they have a need, but they're just not ready to go. And often when people are not ready to go, we try to close the sale by manipulation, by scarcity, by forcing them into it, when reality is they're just not baked. And what needs to happen is they need to go into some sort of nurture sequence, which I would sort of refer to as middle of funnel. So I've got my leads, I've cold called, I've found people who are in my target market, they're sort of interested, but they're not ready to buy. Pete, let's talk a bit about the importance of this middle of funnel, or this nurture component of the daily lead machine.
Definitely. I mean, it's really important to have a nurture process. And I think, you can jump on the phone, you can have a fantastic phone call, but if you've got no follow-up behind the phone call, nothing that happens after the phone call, you're going to lose so many opportunities. So the fortune really is in the follow-up. We need to make sure we're masters of following up. At any one time, only 3 to 5% of customers are in a position that they're ready to buy right now. You may well be approached by a higher proportion of those who are ready to buy, but you still need to have a process in place for those who are not ready to buy, and a process for those who are ready to buy. Now, the ones who are very keen to purchase, let's say they want to purchase your service, it's very urgent, they want to, the legal matter, you need to be able to respond very rapidly. You need to make sure that you're managing the inquiry effectively, make sure that at every single stage, there is a member of staff making a phone call, There's an email going out when it's meant to go out. There's an SMS reminder that meetings are being booked and that the client is turning up to meetings with payment having, actually been made and all the paperwork having been done already. Just that everything working in a very professional and very systematic way. And the great thing about systemizing those processes and having, a set cadence is we can look at the impact of having no process, then we can add in a better process. There's always a process, and then we can fine tune, and over time, by making small adjustments, we can see, if we actually respond to clients' inquiries within 1 hour, this is the effect on conversion. What would happen if we responded within half an hour? What would be the effect on conversion? So it's really about not just leaving everything to chance. It's about having a whole process behind the scenes. So I'm a big advocate of selling on the phone. I love selling on the phone or using the phone effectively. But if you don't have those systems to support, your efforts on the phone, you're losing a lot.
Well, there's a couple of things out of this, and I look at Pete as the guy who plugs the holes in the bucket, right? Because I'm going to either pay for my time or my team's time to make phone calls. And they're going to talk to a lot of people, and different people will be at different stages of readiness or awareness for a product. And based on that, we need to take care of them with kid gloves. Okay. If someone's ready to buy, sell. If someone says not quite now, how do we make sure that we are there, Johnny on the spot at the right point in time when they're ready? And another part of what you've talked about, Pete, is sometimes people aren't ready because they don't trust you yet, or they don't know you well enough yet, or they're not educated enough yet. And this mechanism you talked about is systematic. And we talked about this idea of daily lead machine. And I think the emphasis has to be on machine.
Yes.
Okay. Because when I sort of think back, I think that fresh blood is the lifeblood of business. And what I mean by that is I know businesses that are consistently getting new clients in the door are growing, right? Those people who get clients when the market's busy and then it quietens it off, or, they get all their business through word of mouth or referral. They can't turn the volume up, which means they're never getting maximum utilization out of their delivery mechanism, whatever that might be. So we've got two components. We've talked about getting those names into the system in the first place, and anyone that's ready to buy, sell. Those that aren't ready to buy, go into Pete's system, plug the holes, keep them in the bucket, and let that bucket educate them, build relationship with them, and also give them the ability to stick their hand up and book a call, as you just said, when they're ready.
Yeah.
The other key element is obviously the last piece, which is what we also refer to as bottom of funnel or conversion. And Ashley's all over this because she's a salesperson in her heart. And she says, well, we do cold calling and we close for appointments. Okay. But if we close for an appointment, your job is to close for a sale. Now, a lot of people rely on their own good wits and capacity to be nice on the phone to be able to help people. But I think a sales process that has no friction in it, which allows your customers to understand your product, your service, the benefit it has for them, and how much of a bargain it is compared to the money that you're asking, will make your sales process frictionless, which means you're not trying to close sales anymore. You're facilitating, helping your clients buy.
Exactly.
So I think, we talked about three elements today. We talked about top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. And I think the smart business owner sees this as a process, not a skill. Okay. And if they see it as a process, the idea is to turn it into a machine. And I would love nothing more less than to see every business owner that we talk to or hears this to understand that marketing is an investment. And every element we've just talked about is going to give you a ridiculous return if you get it right. But if I was going to spend all my time in business every day, I would rather get off the treadmill and start building a daily lead machine so that leads are coming in all the time. They're going through a managed process, and I'm only talking to people ready to buy. Because now my life is much more pleasurable, number one, but I've also got this quantifiable source of new business coming in all the time.
Yeah.
So look, today's been an interesting sort of idea, but I want to sort of capture like key elements. So if we think about daily lead machine, what do you think the top 1, 2, or 3 things that people need to be thinking about at the level that you're focused in on? So Ashley, we're at top of funnel with you with this whole idea of cold calling and lead gen. What are the key things that people need to be thinking about or actioning to get their daily lead machine up and running?
Yeah, so I think you touched on something, David, that I loved, which is, I find when I speak to most business owners, a lot of them are very reactionary. So they really are relying on word of mouth, referral, good markets to generate new business. They don't have this little engine room ticking away in the background so that they know that there is a consistent stream of leads coming through. So number one is thinking about how you can be more proactive. And
Yes.
that might be as simple as blocking out an hour of your day to do some cold calling, to, contact new clients you want to work with, whatever that may be. So being proactive, number one.
Yep.
Number two, we've spoken about it a number of times already. I'm obviously biased, but I believe everyone needs to master that art of the phone. So if you and your team are a little bit rusty in that area, get some training or, develop some great scripts, whatever it might be, get some new lists, put something into action so that you can start to master that a little more. And look, I think when it comes to, the lead machine, the daily lead machine, my third tip would also coincide what we've spoken about already, which is to actually have a sales process in place. And obviously we've heard, Peter is the man to talk to at that middle area of the funnel, but there's even a sales process when it comes to, say, activity like jumping on the phone. Do you have a driven process that you follow? Because if you don't, that's where people can get very lost and say, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to say. They fumble. So confidence comes with a process, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And I think, I'll add one more because I said three, but I'll give you the fourth. If we measure our daily lead machine, and what I'm looking for when I measure the daily lead machine is how much is it costing me to buy a client? So what's my acquisition cost of a client? And if I know that number, as in a real number, not a guess,
yeah,
I know that number is less than the profit that I'm making from a client, all of a sudden I'm in a situation where it's how many dollars have I got free that I can pour into this thing and what's my capacity of my business? And the idea for me is that the daily lead machine should be a self-liquidating asset. And what I mean by that is you pay money to learn scripts, you pay money to train your team, you pay money to even engage cold callers, and you pay money for a CRM, and then you build a sales process, and all of that cost is reimbursed through the new business it brings you, because then it manages itself. So Pete, let's hear from you. What are your top 2 or 3 tips when it comes to creating the daily lead machine?
Well, there'll be 4 actually. I had another one on the front, which is think about investment. So you're investing in a process. It's actually your mindset needs to be around, we're creating a system, a process that's going to bring in future prosperity to our business. So it's really about investment. If you don't have, so my number 1 tip, first of all, you need to have a CRM. So you need to have a central place to store information about customers. The second one is to become the master of follow-up. Become good at follow-up. Don't drop the ball on follow-up, because most people will not, agree to go ahead on the first contact. You need to contact people many, many times, and often people, your potential customers are just busy, and they want to do business with you, but they're just busy and they kind of might not even know what the next step is. So follow up effectively. And then the final one, be really, really good at, managing inquiries. So the very first point of contact with your business has to be really professional.
Yes.
And don't drop the ball. Don't be that kind of business where you receive an email on a Thursday and you get back to them the following Tuesday or Wednesday. You've got to be Thursday, 10 o'clock, an email arrives. You've got to be having a chat with them by 10:30 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah, and this is what the internet has done, is it's changed the expectation, hasn't it? Where people now expect to get a response immediately. I make an inquiry, I get a response. It's funny, we were talking about this with restaurants nowadays, and if you can't book a table online for a restaurant, I'm not calling the number and leaving a voicemail for when they get there. I'll just go to the restaurant that I can see has a table available and book it. And we've been a bit spoiled by technology, because I think it actually allows us to find things out in advance. And one of the big tips for me is I know a lot of salespeople who don't have a booking link. So you find a time in their calendar to book. And when you talk about making appointments, every email that we send out in marketing has if you'd like to talk to someone, click here, and it goes straight to a calendar, finds an available time slot, books it in, sends them the reminder. It's all automated. And I don't, even if I'm not available at 10:30 at night because I don't work at night, people who are looking on my website at 10:30 at night can book an appointment for the next morning if I'm available. And I think when you talk about response, the response has to be more an enabler, doesn't it? It just has to make people feel like they can actually get what they wanted, or at least commit to a meeting with someone who can help them get what they wanted. Yeah.
Definitely. And it depends, depends what business you're actually in. If you have an urgent need, let's say it's a medical need or it's a legal need, you don't want to wait around. You don't want to spend the next couple of days chasing up and trying to get the response. You want to be, you want to receive that service very quickly. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think this concept of daily lead machine and the idea of making it self-liquidating, which means that the business who actually builds this thing sees a return on their investment. It's, to me, it's a no-brainer, right? You run a business, you need to be getting leads all the time, and they need to be of quality, but they don't just fall out of the sky. Well, they do sometimes, but not consistently. Okay.
Yeah.
So this idea of building the machine to do it, I think the nice thing about doing this is once you've created this, you're going to move ahead of your competitors straight away, because most people are so busy just reacting or quoting against competitors. When I quote against a competitor, I'm in a price competitive market. If I have new leads coming in every day, I'm not going to be as desperate to close sales.
True.
So there's a lot of reasons to do this, but there's a lot of excuses not to do it. So I'm just, we're going to wrap this call up in a minute, but I've got another question, right? What's the biggest barrier? What's the biggest excuse people will have for not going ahead with investing in building this marketing daily lead machine? What do you think it might be? Just curious.
Time. Always time, like, we've got too much business coming in at the moment. I can't, well, that's the other one too, right? Like, too much business already to handle. But that brings me back to my point about, yes, but are you still in that reactionary mode? Because you could turn around in a few months and your sales pipeline's empty and things are a lot quieter. So you can't live in that space. But definitely time is the other side of it is, I don't have time to put together a process and train my team and put systems into place. That's a big barrier.
I think I love this one. Can't someone else just build one for me? Can't I just buy this thing?
And we'll go, okay, we can do it for you.
Yeah, of course we can. But I think when people are flippant about it and they go, I don't understand how to do that. It sounds too complicated. Or I don't know how. Right. These excuses are really just reasons not to be successful. What do you hear a lot, Pete, when people object to getting a CRM? What's the usual thing you hear?
Well, I see it a lot where, and it's not just in my particular area. In general, customers don't buy when they're confused. So you have to be really good. I mean, as a service provider, I have to be able to explain the case as to why you need a CRM and why you need a salesperson.
Yeah.
Because once the penny drops, I think people realize absolutely they can't live without a CRM and automation, because the alternative is a business that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So, but definitely tech does seem complicated to people. So often if we're not doing the right job of communicating, then you get confusion and they go, I don't know which CRM, there's 600 CRMs to choose from, which one should I choose? So I think it's about clarity of the message for me personally.
So that's analysis paralysis is what I would refer to is
lots of people have that.
It's too hard. I don't understand it. I feel like it's just trying to sell me something. And I think this comes back to this idea of I need to see a return on investment.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just the money I pay out to a provider. It's actually the time I have to spend understanding it, testing it, implementing it. But if I'm astute, I actually control all of that and say, all right, I'm prepared to put some wood in the fireplace to get the heat out of the fire, but I'm going to control how much I put in before I sort of measure the result. So this whole idea of saying this is a progressive process, it's not just a one-off buy one. Yeah. It's iterative. It's got to be implemented. It's got to be strengthened. It's got to be tested. It's got to be analyzed. You talked about, once I have a system, I can improve it. If I don't have a system, how do I improve things? So it's an interesting distinction. Let's wrap this up today. So creating a daily lead machine. Number one action item that people should do as a result of this conversation is what?
Pick up the phone.
Call now. We're not going to give people phone numbers. They're going to have to Google and find you guys.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. You have to call me for a consultation, but that actually means you have to get the confidence to pick up the phone and dial the number. So.
Definitely.
I tend to agree. I think today all we can do is say this is a really important piece of the puzzle. But for people to actually implement this, they have to want it, right? Because if they don't want it, then it's not for them. And if they want to know more, then they can just reach out. You know, we're all just a phone call away. There's other experts out there. There's other mechanisms. Google is in your pocket. You just type in how to create a daily lead machine, and I'm pretty sure you'll find lots of different bits of information. But I suppose today was just to talk about the practical implementation, the gotchas, some of the things that people might get stuck on. The reason why you need to do this, I don't think it's negotiable ever. Forget about where the economy is and where your business is. Part of your business plan needs to be building a marketing and sales system or a daily lead machine. And if you do this effectively, you're going to eradicate so many of your other problems.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Great.
Guys, I really appreciate you coming on the call today. It's been interesting. It's been insightful. It's actually pretty exciting because I think for a lot of people, this is the missing link. And they just need to look out, how do I do this or where do I start? And I think we've given them that insight today. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone.